Johannes, good to see you. I hope you're well. Let's sort of start with injury news. Where's the squad at sort of heading into this weekend? Any sort of fresh concerns at all?
No, not really. So, yeah, of course we have the usual guys out. So Josh will of course still be out, but nothing from the game Tuesday night. So everything will just be a matter of load management for us. So, of course, look at the minutes they've had. Especially still have an eye on the guys who just came back from injuries. So we make sure that they, of course, are available for as many minutes as possible. But nothing really after the game Tuesday.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question in terms of load management, because you've just had sort of this is the third game of a 3-game week.
Yeah.
You've got a bit of a break to the next one, and then obviously we've got the Christmas schedule, which over here is notoriously difficult, and there's lots of load there. So are you already sort of looking ahead to that schedule and having to sort of manage players accordingly?
Yeah, and that's also why we take some decisions to rest some players once in a while, to rotate just a little bit. So we make sure that as many as possible is available for the Christmas period, because of course there will be a lot of games, and for us to be as competitive as possible, we need the guys ready.
And for someone like Marcelino Nunez, who came back and obviously was in a position where they then had to play on Tuesday night for the reasons that we know about, him in particular, and I guess others around that group that you're having to manage a little bit more closely as well.
Yeah, we're looking close to him, so monitoring everything like we do with all the players, to be fair. But of course we have an eye on him to make sure that we don't do too much. And also the game Tuesday, we decided that the plan was that he should not have been in the starting 11, but then when he went into the 11, then said okay, maximum around an hour, that will be it for him. So we make sure that, or at least we try to make sure that we don't load him too much to begin with. But we also have other players where they've played a lot, and we have to still make them fit and keep them fit, but also take care of their individual situation. But I think we are in an okay place, and we have players available, and we can choose different players for the same position, which gives us options, so we can play just with the right back different ways. We can play with the left back in different ways. So it's good because it gives us options to prepare for the game, but also options in the game.
Just to ask you about Kenny McLean, not because obviously you said everything that you wanted to say on Tuesday, so I don't want to go over that unless there's anything that you wish to add, in which case feel free. But on him more generally, have you had to sort of put an arm around him this week and offer him a bit more support? Because he had a 4-game ban previously. I think he spoke pretty openly about how he felt he sort of let the team down and that sort of thing. And then you come back and you're hit with a similar thing. So is there a management situation there, or is he the type of professional that you can just sort of leave alone and pick himself up?
No, I don't think you ever become professional enough just to leave your emotions completely out. I think actually you are real professional when you can open up for your emotions and we can have conversations about it. I think it's tough for Kenny. He's more or less always available. He's never injured. He's always available for training. He's always available for games. And now with this ban, he ends up having been out for 8 of the first, what's going to be 23 games when he's ready again. So it's 30% of the season, which is a lot. So it's not something that he's used to. So I think it was a tough one for him Tuesday night, and we spoke already that day, him and I, and also the days after here, because we cannot really do anything about it. We can just keep him fit and keep him ready and keep him within the group. And he was around the group Tuesday night and to support us as much as possible. But it's not a great situation for him to be in. And then we can always discuss just the decision made by the FA. But that's, no matter what your opinion is in that regard, it's still tough for a player, no matter what.
Yeah, and that was going to be sort of my next point in terms of the role that he still has, because he can still train and he can still have an influence in that group. So I'm sure that's probably what you've been emphasising to him, the role that he can play even in this period where he's not available for matches.
Yeah, and just to give an example, of course, today we trained our defensive game plan leading into the game on Sunday, where we know Burnley is a good team on the ball. We know they have some really, really good players and some technical good players that can dominate the game. And now having the option of putting Kenny as one of those players also made the team that is supposed to start on Sunday. That gave them just a harder session, which is useful for us, because we're not in training just to put up situations that they succeed with all the time. But today was actually a very good one, because it created some dilemmas. It created some situations that we have to deal with in many ways. So it opens up for other options. It's not ideal, but we of course manage, and he's professional within the group, so he just takes that role as like he's done it so many times.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of, obviously, because of his situation, probably prompts maybe a wider discussion about this, but your sort of discipline situation more wide, I think it's 47 yellow cards, which I think is the fourth highest in the Championship, if the numbers that I've looked at is right. So I guess, is that natural, because you spoke about emotions there, is it natural of having a younger group and maybe some guys who are in situations for the first time and maybe are a little bit emotional? Is it something that you have to dig deeper into to sort of find out why that is the case? I'm sure not all of them probably have been yellow cards at various points.
No, at least a couple of them were. I think it surprised everyone. I think that there's many ways. We've been quite hard on the situations where it's been for complaining too much to the ref, or indicating that the opponent should have a yellow, because we know that that's just a clear booking. They've made it clear, the refs, for us before the season started, that they will give bookings for that. So then we should avoid. Then there's all the fouls, and there's good fouls to do, and there's stupid fouls to do, and I think we've made some good ones and we've made some bad ones, and that's a part of learning in football, to know exactly what to do in a situation. I would have had Anis to have a yellow card in the situation against Middlesbrough, where he runs down the line and from our offensive corner kick. So if you have said 28 to me instead of 27, it could have been a better situation. It could have also been that we should have avoided one or two in other situations. So that's how it is. We try to create an intensive game. We try to create especially a defensive game, where we try to work towards the ball and try to have as many high pressing moments and situations. And that intensity sometimes can be maybe too aggressive in situations, which is definitely something we need to learn how to deal with better. But it is a part of our plan that we want to be intensive in our movements.
Just some reflections on Tuesday night then, because I think you summed it up quite nicely after the game when you said terrible as a contest. But was it an example in terms of the way that you went about it, as obviously in terms of the way that you set up the team? Because so much of what you've done so far at this club has been sort of talking about long term and mid to long term, but there's also a short term as well, isn't there? And balancing that, because you need results to keep people with you and keep players with you. So was that a result, or a sort of a case where after QPR you had to look at the short term to an extent?
Yeah, mostly because of the point that was important for us. Of course, we would have hoped for 3 points and would have hoped for more offensive situations and more chances created for us. But at least 1 point was important, based on the experience we had Saturday, where we are not even close to being good enough. Which also tells me the fact that we are still learning here, and we are still in a phase of the season where not everything is perfect, and we're not close to. We've seen the top moments, but we've also seen the lows, and we need to find consistency and develop consistency in the group, which takes time. So on the journey, we need to sometimes be able to take a point, especially away from home when we need it. That will never be my favorite type of game, never. But as a coach, you also have to look at where the team is in a particular moment and situation. And I think the game plan for Portsmouth away Tuesday night was a little bit more pragmatic than what we normally will do, and hopefully, what I also said to the boys, I could not criticize them for anything they did in that game, because I think what they brought in terms of character and heart and passion and hard work to the game was outstanding. And I think it was important, at least for us, to show that we can also do that. If it's needed, we can do it. But of course, we have big expectations, and we expect more. But good things take time, and we're still learning, and we're still building. And hopefully, what also said after Tuesday is that next year, when we play a similar type of game in that place, we can do it more our way.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think when most people think of improvement, they think of it as quite linear, quite smooth. But actually, you look at the way it's been this season, it's been a couple of results and then maybe a backward step that you wouldn't necessarily want. So I guess that sort of outlines what you're trying to do here, and why you maybe had to take that step away from your style, because we all watch your teams, we all know that's not what you want them to do, or how you want them to play, or probably how you want them to play moving forward. But it was a necessity in that situation.
Yeah, and dealing with adversity, and dealing with all the things that happens in football, which is not always something you can control, and you have to deal with the situation that you can control and deal with the stuff that you can control, and that's that's what we have to try to do. It, like you say, it's not linear, or what do you call it? So it will never go just straight forward and straight up. But there will be ups and downs. But as long as we make sure that you can always see development and improvement from where we started to where we are now, and then we don't know exactly how much time it will take, but we can see that we are getting better. But we can also, of course, see where we have to improve and be better to be able to compete on the highest level in this league. And that's our ambition. But yeah, it will still, I would say, take some time for us to be there. But again, what the guys are doing in training, what the guys are doing in terms of preparation, I have so much confidence in the group, because what I see here is players that develop and improve and try to take in all the information that they get, and like I said, also have shown it in some games so far this season. So yeah, hopefully it will not take too much time, but I think we can expect that it is a season where there will be some ups, there will be some downs, but hopefully more ups.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's easy to forget that you're still 20 games into this, and it's still very new in comparison to where you want to take it. But are you seeing in the data, in the performances, that you're getting towards now a more consistent level of where you would want those players to be at this stage?
Yeah, we actually had a longer meeting from the data guys yesterday about all the stats and where we are, and we can see, of course, in the way that we build the game and the way that we try to dominate the game, there's a big difference from where we have been to where we are now. But now it's also the really, really difficult step to take, because now I think what we face is that some teams, they accept that we are on the ball a lot, and they sit back and they defend a little bit lower, and that's the most difficult thing to open up in football and have solutions to that. And the players, they can find the rhythm of each other, and they can combine with each other, and they can do it fast enough to open up the space that we need to attack in. And that's probably where we are now. I would still like us to be better in building up from goal kicks, even though I think we have had some really good games in terms of that, but also still there room for improvement, because I think that's often the first step to start to dominate a game and start to create that game picture that you want. But I think we are probably over that step, and now heading towards the next one, which is that the teams, they are prepared for what we bring to the game. They are prepared for how they can stop that and how they can destroy that part of the game. And we have to be on top always, and we have to be sure that we have some openings, we have some solutions that they're maybe not prepared for, and that's the difficult part.
Just a couple sort of away from the game before I sort of ask you about Burnley. There's been sort of some fresh reports in the last 24 hours or so, sort of at the Liverpool end, about Kate Gordon and potentially sort of a recall option there in January. I know you spoke about him a couple of weeks ago, but has that situation evolved? Because I don't think he's been in a matchday squad since you were asked about him last time. I mean, where do you sort of think that he's at? Has that situation changed at all with him and where you see him?
It can change, because what I do is that I select the 20 players that I think are the best ones for the game that we have to win, and that I will do every day, and every time, also meaning that if you're out of that team, it's a decision for me that I think some of the other guys are better suited for that game. It can change, and it can also change in a league where there's so many games, and we go into a period now where we play with only 3 or 4 games rest in between them, sometimes even less than that. So it can change, and it's always my words to the players that are not in the team that, that they have to do the same every day. They meet in, they have to keep the same high standards, no matter if you play or not. That's the only thing you can do. And of course, as a football team, we need more than 20 players, also to create the competition in every position that we want to have. So. It's a natural thing, and for the moment he's out of the team because I prioritise some of the others.
And in terms of him, I guess it's natural when you have a lone player from a club like Liverpool that isn't getting in squads that suddenly people talk about a recall. But is that sort of entered your mind that maybe it hasn't quite worked out in the way that any party sort of would have envisaged when it happened in the summer? Yeah,
of course, the ideal scenario was that he was in the starting lineup every weekend. That's not the situation at the moment, and we try to develop him and improve him, and we have talks with him, and we treat him like one of the others, as we of course are supposed to do, and we will keep on doing that. I don't think I will consider now whether he should go back in January, because I see such a busy schedule, so I can easily see that he can make his way into the team again if he's training well, if he's doing his stuff like he's supposed to do. Then I think there's a way in for him. Obviously, at the end, it's of course also up to him in his career what his next step should be. If you want to stay here and fight, I will be more than happy about it, because we need good players, and he's definitely a good player, but maybe just struggling a little bit to get into the team with all it takes, especially physically and tactically.
And just one more before we move on to Burnley, but the transfer window more generally, like you say, it's a busy schedule coming up. Have you had an opportunity to sort of sit down and think about that? Because this is, as you said, post Christmas, it goes pretty hectic. So.
No, I had to watch all the other championship games.
Yeah, I noticed we haven't had any other retrospective bans, but hey, there we go. But the January window more generally, I mean, is the expectation from you that there will be some active sort of situations that you'd be looking at? I think we can see sort of some possible holes. That right wing position's been a little bit problematic. So I know you're not going to come out and talk about positions specifically.
No, but I think it's important that we use every window. We've spoken about a lot also when we started this summer how many windows we actually think it will take before we have a team where we think they can do what we expect them to do, and it will take some windows. So we have to use every window from now on, based on the strategy, looking at the strategy, what is it we need. Of course, if there's anything specifically we need to do, let's say we have some injuries or other things happens in the team, of course we need to be able to react to that. That's also a part of strategy. But otherwise, we look at the strategy, what is it we need, and especially to build the team from a long-term perspective, which is important. So I think it's realistic to expect that there will be some deals for us, but who it will be, then we need to dig deeper into that. But there's a lot of guys doing a great deal of work in terms of recruiting and finding the right candidates for that, so we can stick to the strategy and we can keep all building. So the steps that we have taken now should just be follow up with other steps in the same direction.
Just to look ahead to Sunday then, Burnley, best defensive team in the league, second best attack. You can kind of see the narrative there. I think Scott Parker got asked about it yesterday and was very complimentary about Borja and certainly what you guys have done as a team. So how do you see that playing out? Because when you play a team that's conceded 7 goals, you're naturally going to get questions asked of your attack. Yeah,
it makes sense, because when I see them as well, they are solid and they're disciplined, well organized defensively as well. So definitely, I think in so many areas of the game they are a top team, and you can see that it makes sense that people expect that they will be up there. I think the whole coaching staff up. I know it's new faces in the group and so on. They've done a great work when I see them. I also expect that maybe a little bit like us, they're still taking steps, and I don't think they are there where they want to be. But I think what you can see is that they're very, very solid, and they have a great discipline in defending. So that's of course also, when you look at the numbers, it makes sense. So it's a great team, and we expect a tough one on Sunday where we have to be at our best. But on the other hand, and on the other side, I also expect that, because I've seen that so far in the season, that when we are at our best, we can definitely compete against the best teams in the league, and we can create chances and we can score goals. So like everything we do, like every other game that we have prepared for, we focus mostly on us and how we can take the game and make it a game where we want it to be and how we want it to be. So that's the ambition on Sunday. But I think it's a good one for this group of players to have now, because there will be a lot of support at home. There will be of course, like always, full house and a great atmosphere at the stadium, and it will be a tough fight out there where hopefully there will be a lot of good moments for us.
Yeah, and final couple from me, but I mean, in terms of them and where they're at, and I've been someone the other day about them, is say actually don't underestimate the distance they cover and the intensity they play at. So in that regard, it probably feels like it's going to be a game between two similar teams in that regard, because the way that you want to play is quite intense, and you want the ball and they want the ball. So there's that aspect, but I guess, and you mentioned it there, can you lean upon what you did against Leeds, against Sheffield United, against some of those teams, Luton as well, who've come to Carrow Road, and you have performed quite well against?
Yeah, and probably I think we can expect a little bit like the same game picture, where there'll be moments in the game where we have to accept that they dominate the ball, because they have so good players in that area of the game. Beside a couple of midfielders that can really control the game, of course also offensive players that can create good situations just by dribbling or taking on fullbacks. So we need to expect, and we're prepared for that, that there'll be moments in the game where we cannot just be on the ball, we have to defend, and we have to be solid, and we have to support each other, and we have to bring the intensity that is needed into that part, because if we just switch off in one or two positions, then they're too good to create the moments they want. So that's really been a big part of our preparation. But again, the more still that we can dominate, the more that we can be on the ball, the better for us in terms of creating a good result and a good performance. And I think there was many good moments against Sheffield. There was many good moments against Leeds, and now I think hopefully this is the time for us to take the next step and have good moments, but also a good result.
And finally, for me, there's been a lot of talk about your away record, and obviously it's been a tough week for you in terms of that QPR game, and then a very physical game against Portsmouth. So must be delighted to be back at Carrow Road.
Yeah. We love that. That's our favourite place to be. No doubt about that. It is a tough league, and I see no teams in the league with just even close to an average point of 2 away from home. Most teams are 1.5, 1.6. The better teams are 1.7, something like that, which is not always typical if you look at the best leagues. But it tells how competitive this league is, and it just tells the story that every team they really, really have to compete and fight for the points away from home. I think even though we talk about a not so good record away from home, I think we're still mid-table if you look at the points, which is actually, to be honest, a little bit crazy when we have more points than what we got. But it just tells the story about how crazy, in a good way, that this league is.
Thanks, Johannes. Good luck on Sunday.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colin.